Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Wine Time with Peggy show, featuring Peggy Fiandaca, who, along with her winemaker husband Kurt Lawrence Dunham, owns and operates LDV Winery in Arizona. Welcome, everyone. It is February, and it's time to talk about sweet things in life. Maybe the sweet thing is your spouse or your loved one, your romantic partner. Maybe it's the first date, but sweet things always go well with wine. And that's what we're going to be talking about with Peggy here on Wine Time with Peggy. We're here every first Wednesday, and I look forward to this show every month because I don't know, she makes me hungry, she makes me thirsty. And what I'm really excited about, I know we're going to talk about sweet things, Peggy, but I just saw that you guys won a whole bunch of awards for your wine, which doesn't surprise me.
Oh, thank you. We sure do. We don't enter competitions very much because a lot of times, everyone gets a ribbon and they're more about marketing. But the San Francisco Chronicle puts on a first class competition, and it's all the
Mm.
wines in North America compete. And I can't remember the number, 2,500 to 5,000 wines are submitted, and it's very
Mm.
prestigious. And so our Petite Syrah, Rhyolite Petite Syrah won a bronze. Our Rhyolite Rosé won a bronze, and or a silver. That won a silver, and
Yeah.
then our Rhyolite Viognier won a bronze. So we are thrilled, absolutely thrilled about it.
Yeah. And
And
yeah.
and we only submitted three, and we got three. So we're
So
thrilled.
maybe you need to do more now. Go get them
Yeah.
next year. I love
Yeah.
this. I love this. I mean, it's got to, because it's, so we've talked about, part of why we do this podcast is so people can understand what it's like running a winery and have that value, to
Mhm.
understand what goes into that wonderful bottle of wine and then understand why I cry when the wine is gone, you know.
Right.
But I mean, because once it's gone, it's gone. It's like that's it.
Right.
You can't just push a button and the same thing is manufactured, which is the
Right.
beauty and the art of it. But um, getting an award from something that is prestigious has got to kind of make you guys feel like, okay, this was really cool.
Yeah.
It's got to feel good after all the work you do.
Right. It
You know,
makes the all that long hours, the hard work, the second guessing, all the tasting along the way, all the farming, because it's
hmm
basically farming our
yeah,
grapes in order to produce that wine and then to be recognized. We get accolades from our customers all the time, which is wonderful, but
mm,
to be recognized by our peers,
mm.
basically, and in industry peers, that it is really a fine wine and worthy of rising to the cream of the crop. Makes us feel good. Absolutely.
Well, I think your club members, must be excited too
Oh,
because
yeah.
they're part of that journey. Everyone is, when you go through things, it's like everyone involved is part of that journey to get there to that ribbon
Right.
or, that fine bottle of wine. And,
Right.
and speaking of your customers, is the season, right? So I know Scottsdale, the tasting room has to be hopping right now. It's that time of year.
Yes, people are trying to get out of the cold weather all over the
What?
country, and
I was going to say,
it's,
what?
I
Not,
know
not
it.
for you.
Not, well, for us, it's cold. I mean, look at, I have sweaters on, but it's certainly not in comparison to the rest of the country.
Mm,
Actually, it's just beautiful. Still in the, gets up to the 70s, and mornings are chilly, but it's beautiful weather. And yeah, people are starting to come, sit on the patio and enjoy the
mm.
sunshine. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. And are you still doing events throughout February, March?
Yes, we are. And in fact, tonight I'm doing a Linez Divin aromatherapy for
Oh,
winos for a group. And we have,
sniff and sip is what I call it. Yes.
yeah, and we have charcuterie making class this month. We
Mm,
have wine and cheese pairing classes this month. And yeah, and we have some private events. So we're keeping very
oh, cool.
busy. Yeah.
Well, with the charcuterie boards and the pairings, that's got to be real popular for, Valentine's weekend. I mean, it's the whole weekend with Valentine's Day starting on Friday, you
Right.
know. So that's got to
Right.
be pretty epic.
Yeah, we have a wine and chocolate pairing for Valentine's Day. That we have a chocolatier that makes our
Ooh.
chocolates that are specifically produced to pair with our wine. So it's a four wine pairing, four different wines paired with four different gourmet chocolates. And so we have that for Valentine's as well as
Mhm.
some wine specials for Valentine's Day for gifts for your special someone.
Ooh. So before we get to that, because I'm interested in this pairing with sweets. Okay. So this is always fun to talk about. Because I have a sweet tooth, but I like the sour with it. I want the spice, I want all that craziness, and you got a great recipe. But how is the vineyard? What's going on this time of year? Or
Right.
do you have any buds yet, or does that come next month for spring? Is it still saying leave me alone, I'm sleeping?
Yeah, it's still in dormancy this month, but we are starting to think about the growing season. So we are beginning to do winter pruning. And what that is going into the vineyard and taking out the dead or the parts of the vine that are we no longer needed. And so
Mm-hmm.
cutting it back and starting to it's the first basic the training of the vine to start preparing for the growing season. So,
Ooh.
and it's hand one vine at a time going through the entire field, and it's a lot of work, but that has begun as of I think today.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
Kurt's busy. Kurt.
Yes, it's a busy time in the vineyard, and unfortunately, it's cold down at the vineyard, and it's
Mm,
not, and we get the winds, so it's not a fun job to do
wow.
at this time of year.
Now I understand. I understand. Now, well, let's talk wine because, this is exciting. So when you talk about sweets, um,
Yes,
yeah, what is your term, by the way? What's your term of the month?
right. The term
Yes,
is
sweet.
dry,
Oh,
which a lot of people think it's the
I'm dry
same.
right now, Peggy. I need a glass of
I,
wine.
I know it. Well, and a lot of people think of dry with rain. We're
Mhm.
experiencing 160 days without rain here
Oh,
in Arizona in the Phoenix area, and we're supposed to get some rain today. It's an all-time longest time we've gone without rain. So that's one way to think of dry, but in wine, a lot of people think dry equals sweet wines, or that if it's
hmm.
dry, then it might be sweet. But no, dry is when we're talking about wine, it's the taste that's left in your mouth because what's what's it's a mouth feel, and it's usually
Hmm.
not because of the sweetness level or the lack of sweetness. It has more to do with the tannins that might be left in the wine,
Hmm.
that you're getting that feeling of dryness, or uh, some people describe it as puckering, and they choose the fact that I don't like that dryness in my mouth, so I like a sweet wine. No, not necessarily. You may not like a wine that has tannins,
Mm.
but um, yeah, so when you think about dry, it's not necessarily um, related to the sweetness of the wine.
Right, right. It kind of does have that little puckery kind of, okay, I want a glass of water
Right.
afterwards, a little bit.
But sweetness in wine is when really comes several different ways. It's how much residual sugar is left in the wine after the fermentation process.
Mm.
So I know I've talked about LDV winery, we ferment down to zero residual sugar into our wines. So that's the amount of time that we allow the fermentation process to
Hmm.
continue until we are at zero residual sugar. But other wineries will ferment and stop the fermentation process and at a higher level of sugar left in the wine. So a lot of people think we add sugar to the wine to make it sweet. No, we don't do that. So if a
Okay.
wine is, you might have like 3.6% to 12%. sugar left in the juice after the fermentation process, then it's considered a sweet wine. Um,
Mm,
but
mm,
so that's one way to get sweetness in the wine. But you can also, the type of grape that you grow could also lend itself to a higher sugar content, which can contribute to the sweetness of the wine. Or,
mm.
we've all heard of late harvest, where late harvest, the grapes are actually left on the vine longer, and so they ripen and produce a sweeter wine. Or the fourth way to get sweetness in your wine is through fortification. And I know you've tried our epilogue
Mm-hmm.
wine, which is our dessert wine, and that was fortified with grape spirits. And that is, we allowed the fermentation to get to a point where we had, I think it's 4% residual sugar left in that wine because we wanted a little bit of sweetness to it. So
And
there's
that's a
different,
good wine for
yeah,
Valentine's. I'm just
yeah,
saying, it's
that's a
it's
fun
the
wine.
yes, it's a fun wine. Put on that, that Hey Baby music when you listen to it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's definitely
when
a
you drink
great
it,
wine to
yeah.
pair with music.
Yes, it's definitely you want that Hey Baby music when you
Yeah,
sip that at the end. So that's
yeah,
interesting about the sweetness, because I think sometimes when people start to drink wine for the first time, they tend to go that way
right,
first and then it changes. And I think it's
right.
kind of similar to how we drink our coffee in a way.
True. Yeah, I think you're right. A lot of people, can't drink coffee black. They need that additive to it, like
Hmm.
a sweet sugar or flavored creams to put in it, which, in my opinion, changes what coffee's all about. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's a beginner
That's
step
interesting you
into it.
said that about coffee because, there's like this flavored coffee, that flavor, pumpkin spice and all that. I'm going, well, then why don't you just go get pumpkin? Why are we doing coffee is coffee. The only thing you
Right.
should change to the coffee is maybe add some Baileys or Kahlua
Right. There you go.
or make
Yeah.
a toddy. Now that
Yeah.
still keeps the
Yeah.
coffee flavor. See?
Right. Because you're creating a mixed drink. You're
Yes.
changing it. But yeah, coffee is like wine. It's where those beans are cultivated will change because of the terroir of those coffee will produce a different taste in the coffee, just like chocolate, just like wine
Hmm.
grapes. And if you're really a connoisseur of coffee or chocolate or wine, you appreciate the differences of the terroir and how that impacts the end result being the coffee bean or the chocolate cacao
Man,
or the wine grape. So
I'm all
yeah.
espressoed up today. Even my hair won't go back to its normal position. It's like going, hello, I'm here. I'm here. The sun is out and you gave me espresso. What was
Oh,
that? you know,
I love
um,
it.
I wanted to, speaking of mixing things, we did our happy hour show recently and it was about bootleggers, rum runners, and moonshiners. Okay.
Oh
Kind of
my.
next to your history. Yeah. And Matt Cost, the author, comes on and he writes boozy history books with jazz and all kinds of mystery and who did it and who didn't
I
books. They're
love it.
fun, but I can't remember what he called it, but everybody was trying to drink what was going on at the time, and he had a bourbon or a whiskey mixed with Cabernet, and I'm like, what is that?
Wow.
That is the
Yeah.
weirdest thing I've ever heard of, and I don't know why you would do that. I don't know, but like if he wants to go do
Wow.
it. So I don't know. I'm kind of I've never thought of doing that, and I don't know if I can make myself do it. But one day I'll have to try it just to see.
Yeah, I will too. I'm trying to, I have to think about that this to kind of conjure up the flavor profile, and I'm
Mhm.
having a hard time to understanding it, but I'm gonna have to try that.
I'm gonna
Maybe,
ask him for I want complete directions. It's
yeah.
like I know people make sangrias, and he goes, "This is just a little stronger." So I thought, well, I might be missing an ingredient, but I just remember sitting there going, "You're weird, man." And of
Yeah.
course, he thinks I am too, but that's okay. So
Shoot. I should have
I
I should have joined you on that
yeah.
podcast and I could have
Well,
talked
there's
about
many
my
more. Your
oh good
family.
my My grandfather, who was a bootlegger in Kentucky, bootlegger Bill Hogan. Yeah, he was very famous
Oh,
bootlegger. But
we're gonna
yeah.
have to do that because we'll do another one because there's always something to talk about on the run. And we did a virtual run.
Oh, love it, love
We
it,
did a
love it, love
virtual
it.
run. Okay, so sweets. I'm excited about this.
Sweets.
So when we say
Yeah.
sweets, you said, as we were getting the podcast, you're like, this is not chocolate, Lisa, but you can add chocolate to
Yes.
sweets. But when I hear sweets, I go back to England thinking candy, and then there's sweets that are like kind of not full desserts. So when you say sweets, what is your definition?
I'm thinking of desserts that you might be serving with for Valentine's Day, maybe dinner or
Mm-hmm.
fruit desserts or you know, candy desserts or sugary kind have
Mm-hmm.
a higher sugar content. The rule of thumb when you're pairing wine with a sweeter kind of dessert is you don't want the wine sweetness to exceed the dessert sweetness. So you don't want to put a real sweet wine with a real sugary dessert. So that balance, which I always talk about, is really important. So you need to think about the structure of the wine and the sweetness of the wine should at least equal the or be less than the sweetness of the dessert. And if there's some fruit flavor to the
Mm-hmm.
dessert, so for example, strawberry shortcake, which is one of my favorites.
Ooh.
I love the sweetness of the
Mm-hmm.
strawberries, and usually the shortcake has a little bit of sweetness, but it's different than the
Mm-hmm.
sweetness of the berries. And then you always have whipped cream, which is wonderful on a strawberry shortcake. But so you want to balance that and don't want to have anything too sweet. And so our award-winning LDV Viognier would be a wonderful pairing with a strawberry shortcake or like a brut or semi-brut
Mm-hmm.
champagne would be wonderful with that. So it would not be too sweet, but it would bring out the fruit flavors of that
Mm.
sweet dessert, which is what you would want to do. And our Viognier isn't heavily oaked, which that also would be a little bit too heavy if you went with an oaky Chardonnay with those strawberries.
It's
So,
really a balance because you want it to be able to not be too opposite, you know?
right,
You don't want it to be like, okay, now the sugar overpowers the wine. That's rude.
right,
We can't have
exactly,
that. We can't have
right,
that. And when we paired, I'm still going back to that upside down pineapple cake.
right,
That was like the perfect pairing. And I was really surprised about the Grenache and that because the cake wasn't over sweet. And
right,
so it balanced this perfect, it was just it was like perfection. I want it
right.
back. I
Yeah.
want that. We're all sitting there going, wow. And Eva, who doesn't drink much wine, she's like, oh wow, this is fantastic, man. I need to start
Right.
doing this. But
Yeah.
that pairing was amazing. And I would just recommend people doing a pink upside down, a pink pineapple upside down cake, but you're doing a fresh cake, which is a rare thing to
Right.
do. But it when you do it with the wine is alive. Like this
Right.
whole energy changes by
It
doing like
does.
a fresh cake, but it still had like the brown sugar crumble on the top. So you still had that
Right.
sugary, but it was just perfect. It was like
Right.
ideal. Mm.
And if you would have put it with a white wine, I
Viognier, it would
think,
have gone really well too, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, it might have. And or, when it clashes, both don't taste good.
No,
The
no.
dessert doesn't taste good or the wine doesn't taste good. Um, and a lot of times you blame the wine that it's bad, but no,
No.
it's a bad pairing. And
Mm,
so choosing the right pairing is, in my opinion, is very important.
mm,
Um,
mm,
Same thing like with the pineapple, a lemon meringue pie, which is can be very sweet, right? But then you have that tartness of
mhm.
the lemons also. Kurt loves lemon bars.
Oh yeah. Oh.
which has the shortbread and then the really wonderful tart
Mm,
lemony flavor, and usually it's topped with some powdered sugar on top. So it's a very sweet dessert,
mm,
but so you want to match that butteriness of the crust and also the sweetness and the tart of that lemon and then the meringue.
mm,
I would probably pair it with a Rhyolite Viognier would be
mm,
really nice. Has a little bit of oakiness. You might do a California oak Chardonnay to go with that. Would be wonderful
mm.
also. Be a nice pairing. But those seem to be tricky pairings because of the sweetness level of the dessert. But you can find a really wonderful wine to complement it
Mm.
and to enjoy.
Okay, so I've got a question. Well, so one of we've been talking about desserts, and we reconnected with a friend from South Africa when it was Nancy, the art director, when she had the magazine there.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
we used to have this, if someone said it, someone had to go and get it. It's called Lemingtons. And this grocery store
Oh,
made Lemmies. We call them Lemmies, but they're not Lemmies. Lemingtons. And I think I found them online, but it had a different kind of name related. So it's like a very light sponge cake cut into
okay.
bars, okay, into little bars like your lemon bars, and then kind of soaked almost in a very light honey kind of coconut and light cocoa. So it's not completely
Wow.
chocolate, but it's very light and subtle. And the textures and the coconut, oh my gosh, the coconut. Hmm.
Wow.
Oh, and so if anybody said it, you had to go get them. And it's just these wonderful bars of spongy, like a vanilla sponge cake with but
Uh-huh.
it's not overpowering. It's very light, and you feel like you're not eating
Wow.
anything unhealthy, but you are. And if I would do anything for a Lemington. I would.
Oh,
So
wow.
something light that's not heavy chocolate, light
Right.
cocoa, a little honey, very light. They do a lot of honey and syrup. Everything
Right.
has honey or syrup in it. Like they make Cook Sisters, which is twisted like dough
Uh-huh.
and twisted and like boiled in honey and then baked.
Wow.
Oh, Cook Sisters, they're seriously, like your teeth will fall on. This is so good.
Wow.
So I don't know what you would pair with Cook Sisters because that's so
I
heavy sweet,
I
but a
would
white wine, I think.
probably go to a no, I would go to a red wine, I
Really?
think, with that. Maybe
Mm,
a Grenache or a,
mm,
because that honey brings out
mm,
that more kind of a brown sugary kind of maybe
mm.
flavor, caramely, a little bit
Yeah.
caramely. The honey would be when it's baking, I would think, in the
Oh.
dough. So maybe a medium bodied red might be beautiful
Mm.
with that. Uh,
Well, what about butterscotch? Now you're thinking, this is terrible. We shouldn't be doing this
I
show. This is
know it. I
terrible.
know it. Now,
Naughty
butterscotch
but nice
too.
show.
Yeah, I would go with the medium body reds because it's pulling out that caramely kind of flavor that you find in an oaked
Mhm.
medium bodied red might be a nice pairing, and it wouldn't be, would be a compliment, not
Oh, so
a
creme brulee would be good, like same
yes.
kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. So those are the kind of sweets to have fun with, I think.
Mm,
You know, if you want to, maybe you like a sweeter wine and you're thinking about a dessert, I would, like a raspberry and white chocolate cheesecake. I know I didn't want to talk about chocolate, but white chocolate, but in the cheesecake,
Why are you doing this to me?
I know it. I know it. Then you might want to choose like a Moscato, which is usually
Mm,
a little bit sweeter of a wine. But it
mm,
also amplifies the fruitiness of the raspberry potentially in that cheesecake
mm.
that you have. So I think it would complement really nicely.
Okay, I got another one for you. So, Joe Clark, the travel writer, Have
Uh-huh.
Glass Will Travel lady.
Yeah.
So she went all through the Finger Lakes area, and they kept pairing wines with macarons. And then she
Oh,
went to
sure.
Sonoma for the first time, and went to all these wineries, and they didn't have the macarons. But the guy that took her around on a sidecar and a motorcycle, this is a tour company. He's a French chef and he saw everything about the macarons. So he made macarons for when they went and had winery picnics.
Ah,
So I think for Valentine's Day, that could be, I mean, because it looks, macarons look so elegant and beautiful. And what would
right.
you think on that? Because they have different flavors too. So this
Oh, they
could be a
do.
fun tasting date, you know?
Right, right. And
Ooh.
we did at the tasting room, we did carry macaroons because they come in so many wonderful flavors. Last year, I don't know why we don't have them on our menu now.
Mm,
I'll have to go back and
mm,
find the gal that made them. She made these beautiful macaroons that we carried,
mm,
and they were fun to pair with wines because they're sweet, but they're not overly sweet, but they have the hints of the tangerine or the
mm,
lime or the whatever the flavors, the cherry macaroons are just incredible.
mm,
And they do beautiful with wines.
mm.
I can do a full tasting of 4 to 6 different macaroons and pair them with different wines. It's a fun way to enjoy
Ooh,
both.
ooh, I like this idea. This
Yeah.
is getting better and better. Now, what about if you had mini carrot cakes?
Many carrot
Oh,
cakes, any kind of carrot cakes, you
I'm
got to
I'm
take
for
it.
the giant. So like
Right, right,
honestly, just
right.
give the whole thing to me. But yeah.
Gosh, I have a wonderful carrot cake recipe. I haven't made carrot cake in a long time. I need to do that. But you got to consider, usually there's cinnamon in the carrot
Mm,
cake, there's raisins sometimes, there's nuts sometimes so you have that kind of winter spices a little bit in the
mm,
carrot cake. And then you also have usually the buttercream
mm.
frosting on it, so you need to
Ooh,
take that into consideration. Um, I think I might go a medium-bodied red with that,
mm. I
with the
think so. And it's
carrot
got that
cake.
nuttiness too. There's like,
True.
don't we put nuts in there? A little bit
Yep,
of,
yep,
mm.
yep, nuts in it, and but yeah, I need to make a carrot cake.
Yes, you do. I'm coming to see
I,
you. I'm
I
gonna
do.
hang out with you.
I have
Ooh.
a taste for a carrot cake. That would be
Oh, it's
awesome.
perfect for a spring coming up, like for Easter
Right.
is a
Yes.
perfect excuse for carrot cake,
Yep.
put little
Yep.
bunnies on it. Okay, so I'm looking back at, all right, sweets and everything again. So, okay, what about getting into candies? Because some of us like that. And right now, so they knew we were coming where we are right now in Georgia. And last time we were here, it was right before Halloween. And I think I told you they make this in the South where it's like a payday bar. It's peanuts mixed, lightly salted peanuts mixed with candy corn or corn candy, however you say it.
Oh,
And it's like
goodness.
this mix. And when you eat it, it's like a payday. And so I get this note, Lisa, when you go
Wow.
in the house, look in the Tupperware dishes for you. What's in the bowl is for Nancy, and the bowl was a bag of candy corn. And what was in the Tupperware was left over. And of course, now we had to continue on and make more because it's dangerous. And I don't want to talk about how much weight I have put on since I've been in the South because I've learned all about cooking with butter and I
Uh,
can't stop. And we're in Georgia, so peanuts come from here. So this has
right.
become the danger zone for me. Um, but I will say it does go well with a white wine. In fact, I even
Wow.
found it not to go with any wine at all. Hmm.
Wow. Interesting.
So I don't know if you can get corn candy now, but y'all try
Yeah.
it because it's sweet, but it
Interesting.
balances. So it's a payday
Okay.
bar. So you got to think going more towards peanut buttery treats. And we
Right.
love peanut buttery treats.
Right. Right. Right.
Mm,
And yeah, I would have put it with a red wine. And I guess it depends on what kind
tequila.
of white wine you were drinking it with. Is it an oaked wine or is it an unoaked wine? Um,
Uh-huh.
Most
I think
likely
I've
it
done.
was both.
I'm trying to tell you, I really kind of, I'm
You
not
loved
kidding
them
about
both.
this is just terrible. It's become
Uh,
I gummy bears are out. This is in. Like this is my
Yay.
new bad. Oh, it's a bad habit. But I
Oh
mean,
boy.
there's peanuts in there, so
And those candy corns are really sweet.
Yes, but you
Those are
don't
really sweet.
tell, like, you don't know they're that sweet when you do this. There's this balance,
Uh-huh.
and then you're eating nuts or legumes or whatever, so you know you're
I
being
love
healthy,
it.
but you're not. So I encourage everyone to try this. It's a
Okay.
Southern thing, I think, and
Okay.
you know, but I think I've had beer with it. I think I've had a little bit of everything with it because,
Okay.
and I don't think
Wow.
I
Maybe that
really
Cabernet whiskey drink or the
Pinot
Cabernet
Noir. Pinot
bourbon
Noir
drink.
with it, because Pinot Noir to me sometimes goes either way, depending.
Yes. 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 Yeah, exactly. It's more fruit forward, so you're getting the fruitiness in
Hmm.
a Pinot Noir that people mistake for sweetness, but it's really not. It's more fruit
Yeah,
forward. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
this
that's
is fun.
awesome. Yeah,
This is
fun,
fun.
fun, fun.
Let's talk
Well,
about your recipe too. I don't want to
yeah.
forget about this because, you
No.
know, anything spiced and sweet, I'm 100% in with you.
Right.
Spiced apple chutney wontons. Okay, so this could be fun for Valentine's, or even, everybody's going to be celebrating the big game in a few days. So this would be
Right.
like a nice
Right.
ending to the day.
Yeah, and it's the year of the snake, and it's the new year
Oh,
for to celebrate the new year, and so yeah, Chinese food is,
perfect.
we need good luck and everything, but yeah, so I came up with my wontons that are with an apple chutney. So you make an apple chutney with, I think it's you want a tart apple,
Hmm.
so Granny Smith or a tart apple, and it has brown sugar and raisins and dried cranberries. I like to put in. I use pecan pieces that you chop really fine to make the chutney, and butter, of course, and
My
cinnamon.
friend.
Yeah, cinnamon, nutmeg, a little acid with the lemon juice, and a tiny bit of apple or um, apple cider juice or apple cider. And you make that chutney. And then it's real easy. You get wonton wrappers and put a little of this chutney in the center and seal it into a triangle, and then fry them up in canola oil and or some light oil,
Mhm.
and top them with some powdered sugar or cinnamon sugar.
Ooh,
Yum, you know.
yes, yes. What are
And
you
it's a
pairing this? Because this has got
right.
some flavor.
It has some flavor, but I would reach for a California Oak Chardonnay,
Hmm.
might be nice, or our award-winning Rhyolite Viognier would be wonderful with this.
I'm going for your Viognier because that's our babies.
Yeah, and it's a fun date night kind of thing. And I like Kurt and I love to cook together, and we did that
Hmm.
when we're dating, and this is a fun recipe to do together with someone or with girlfriends that you might have for over for Valentine's Day, that you make a dessert together, and this is a
Oh,
nice one to do. Yeah.
we need Kurt's brownie recipe. I'm just saying.
Oh, yes, yeah. It
Yes,
is
we're
so
waiting
good.
for that because those that
Those Yeah, those
mm,
are awesome brownies. Yeah,
that
everyone
that can
asks
seal the
for
deal,
those.
y'all. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone asks for those. I mean, when I don't serve them at our wine club parties, they're very disappointed, the wine club members, that his brownies are not on the table. Yeah.
Get Kurt in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Exactly.
love
But
that.
yeah.
Man, but I love this about the wontons. And I want to make fortune cookies. I think we did it once
Did
before we
you?
did a party. We made them. We did. Nancy got into that because she loves themed parties. Like,
Uh-huh.
we used to put
Uh-huh.
on massive, massive parties that were insane, and everybody had to
Uh-huh.
come dressed and all that kind of crazy stuff. But
Uh-huh.
I remember doing the fortune cookies. I think we did it for a New Year thing, and we made up fortunes for people, and then we hoped certain
Fun.
people would get them. But
Uh-huh. Oh, how fun.
so you could write your own fortunes. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I don't think I have ever done that. I don't think I've made wontons.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did that. We
right.
did
Yeah,
that,
I mean
and
fortune cookies. Yeah.
yeah, well, and you have to do it when the dough is hot, and there's like this thing to it. And I think we messed up quite a few of them doing it, and then
Uh-huh.
I don't know, but it was just really fun to do, and to see who got whatever we wrote, because you know what, that could
Oh
be
yeah.
dangerous.
Oh gosh, yeah, that would
Nancy
be
and a pen and a
hysterical.
message, that is dangerous. So there was some interesting things where people kind of went like, well, who made this? Well, we made them ourselves. Who wrote these? I don't know. I don't know who wrote
I
those.
love that.
So,
I
but
love
it's
that.
fun. It's a fun thing to do. There's so much drama in the world that I think we need to celebrate more and have these kinds of events. I really, really do think we need to have a party and celebrate all the celebrations that are there, just for an excuse to have a darn good time.
Right, right. And I always say, because a lot of people save our wines for special occasions, and
Mm.
it's like, Tuesday is a special occasion. You wake up and it's a beautiful day. What the heck? Have a great bottle of wine, do something fun, call your friends,
Yeah.
get together with family, and do something fun.
Just do a last minute thing. Like Nancy and I do that where
Right.
we veer off the road. I mean, that's why we take our weird, cross country drives, and we're like, ooh, that park sounds good. Let's go. Oh, look, there's a wine
Yeah.
spot. Let's open it up, baby.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
And it's like spontaneity is great, and little parties that are just have some fun. Make the
Right.
wontons, make the fortune cookies, do all that
Right.
stuff that just adds that little bit of experience. We have to
Right.
have fun. I love it.
Right. We used to host Super Bowl parties every year, and we haven't done that in a while. We're not doing it this year either. But I would always add something like that to the Super Bowl party because not everyone is so interested in watching every minute of the game. And so we would make, sourdough pretzels or, um,
Ooh.
paninis in the kitchen or egg rolls. We'd roll egg rolls. So whoever wasn't really interested in watching the game would be involved in making something fun. I should have thought of the cookies, fortune cookies. That would be hysterical. But
That would be fun because you could just
yeah,
have a glass of wine and go, let's write this.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
But add that little extra to your
Mm.
party, and it's a lot of fun. It gives
Yeah, and you're really right.
everyone something to do.
Yeah, like the big game, is, like Nancy and I have no clue about football whatsoever, but we're
Uh,
like, it's men running in tights and play classical music, Nutcracker Suite specifically. So anyway, because it's funny. So we do that, but I would be in there. I want to make the pretzels. I've never made
right.
pretzels ever, and I
Oh,
love pretzels.
oh, it's so much
Mm.
fun and so
Oh,
easy, actually.
mm.
And it's hard to get the right shape. And so that's pretty hysterical, trying to get it into
Uh-oh.
the right
Yeah.
shape. But yeah, they're easy and they're wonderful and they taste good. And
Oh,
yeah,
speaking of pairings, because those are salty and then people put them in mustard and so often go to beer.
right,
So
right.
what would you do for wine?
I would go with our Syrah or
Oh yeah,
you,
yeah, perfect.
right?
Yeah,
I think that would be yummy with the Syrah. But you're right. It all depends on what you put with it. What are
mm,
your different dipping sauces? If you're going to dip it into cheese or you're going to dip
honey
it into
mustard.
honey mustard or
Mm,
a spicy mustard. So it'd be fun to do a pairing of different.
pretzels.
Yeah, yeah,
Huh. Okay.
yeah,
Well, that sounds like that's one good one for a game, and
yeah.
then I'll go like, listen, my pretzel's getting salsa because I have to
Right.
represent the
Right,
salsas.
right. Yeah, make it fun. I mean, you can do the same thing with popcorn and do all different kinds of popcorn flavors. And, from cheese
Cool.
popcorn, caramel corn to chocolate popcorn, all different kinds of different popcorns you can easily do and then do a tasting with them all.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. Awesome fun. Well, listen,
yeah,
it's almost spring. It's almost time for a little green buttery to happen, and
yeah,
excited for spring, and have a wonderful Valentine's weekend and big game weekend, President's Day long weekend, lots of celebrations. So,
it
party
is.
on through February. It's a short month. So pack it all in. Do it all.
Yes, yes.
Everyone, you can go to ldvwinery.com. And as I want to remind people, now is the time to order your wine because they can ship. When the temperatures get nice and hot and toasty in Arizona, they can't ship wine. So now is the time. And besides, you can, stock up on award-winning wines. So check that out. Thank you so much, Peggy.
Thank you. Stay warm.
And eat sweets.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Wine Time with Peggy show. Keep up with LDV Winery at ldvwinery.com. Keep up with Big Blend Radio at bigblendradio.com.